Good evening, folks. Red County, Blue Nation. Stephen Rorick, James McMahon. Jimmy, how are you this evening, buddy?
We're doing good. It's a cold winter night. It's definitely been chilly the last few days. So, yeah. You doing all right?
Yeah, I kind of got a little bit of a cold, but yeah, I'm doing fine. Yeah, it's winter time again in the Rockies. Kind of half spoil a guy. One day it gets up to 50, and then the next day it's below zero. It's kind of rude.
It's a little tough out there, especially feeding cows and breaking ice and la-di-da-di-da.
So we have a decent amount of information, folks. We will get all this stuff on the website. I know we've been saying that for a while about the contract with the Chet Haga Trust and all that. We'll make sure that all that stuff gets on the website so you can see it. But what we have is we have a set of statutes that kind of really describes what these elected officials are required to do. And a lot of people think that this is not law. They think, well, they didn't break the law. It don't matter if they were unethical. That don't matter, right? They didn't do anything illegal. That's kind of like slamming the door on the old lady, right? And actually it's different than that, because this actually has
Well, that's where the malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance that people in fiduciary or trustee positions can be charged with. And that's where those words come from. So, yeah, there's definitely rules of behavior that individuals supposed to be held to, and a lot of these folks now are just lawless. And
okay, so this is the Colorado Revised Statutes. This is Colorado Revised Statute 24-18103. Okay, this states public trust, breach of fiduciary duty. And these are off Westlaw, which that's a paid subscription law website that's really expensive. But we have, graciously enough, we have somebody that helps us with this that's kind enough to give us the statute. So we know these are current. These are not just something that we found somewhere, run of the mill. We found it on the internet and it's 3 years old, but it's out of date, right? These are off Westlaw, current, guaranteed. They're up to speed. So 24-18-103, public trust, breach of fiduciary duty. The holding of a public office or employment is a public trust created by the confidence which the electorate reposes the integrity Let's start over there because my phone about tried to skip out there. Public trust, breach of fiduciary duty here. I don't know what happened there. The holding of a public office or employment is a public trust, created by the confidence in which the electorate reposes in the integrity of public officers. That means we basically trust in their integrity. Members of the General Assembly, local government officials, and employees. A public officer, member of the General Assembly, local government official, or employee shall carry out his duty for the benefit of the people of the state. A public officer, member of the General Assembly, or local government official or employee whose conduct departs from his fiduciary duty is liable to the people of the state as a trustee of property and shall suffer such other liabilities as a private fiduciary would suffer for abuse of his trust. The district attorney of the district where the trust is violated may bring appropriate judicial proceedings on behalf of the people. Any monies collected in such action shall be paid to the general fund of the state or local government. Judicial proceedings pursuant to this section shall be in addition to any criminal action which may be brought against such public officer, member of the General Assembly, local government official, or employee. So that goes back to how, in your right mind, can you pay 5 times more than what a piece of property is valued at, lock it down so that you can't do anything with it but build a government building on it,
With the lease, with interest?
with the lease, with interest, which is another topic we'll get into here. You made this arrangement with only one meeting. There was multiple other people that had property for sale that offered to sell you more acres for less money. And you spent the money without asking the people. So, I mean, there's a lot of different statutes we have here. They're a little complicated. We really didn't have time to, I didn't have time to really look through them and plug these in to the specific scenario of what I'm thinking of how that applies. But, I mean, one of the biggest ones right off the top is it's the fiduciary. They're ethically responsible for our breach when they breach our trust, right? And so how can you spend the money on something like this? So why, if they wanted the property so bad, why didn't they just buy it outright for $129,000? Or, you know, there was other properties that was 10 acres for $100,000. We only got 6.6 here. So why would they do that, right? So our fiduciary trust is blown. Mine is. I mean, and so hopefully we hope that there's a lot more of you viewing this evening or that can see these transcripts on the replay. I mean, this is why we're doing it, is to try to get this message out to you folks if you don't understand. And so to kind of color in the lines here of really to paint the picture of what's going on. So we covered that, and I can't remember which one that is. It's 24-1056, I think. The legislative law that states that the courts, the judicial buildings will be up to a specific code by July of 2026. And they just kind of redid that, because it was supposed to go out of date, and then they put that forward till 2033. So basically what that boils down to, folks, is that, okay, the higher powers at the state have deemed it necessary to be able to come in and inspect these facilities and give them a rating or a grade. They're gonna grade them on what they pass and what they fail and what they need to do to upgrade. This is all legislative. I mean, I don't know exactly what can happen if we don't do it, but I know this is not a mandate, I guess is where I'm going with this, right? So my dad, he's brought up a real good point. I mean, I kind of brought it up to him, but we've been kicking this back and forth quite a bit. So if it's a mandate, why did we vote on it? Right? I mean, if it's already law and you're going to cram it down our throat, why did we go to the polls and vote it down 2-1?
Well, here again, I think that Tabor might lace into some of that, because you can't be out spending the taxpayers' money, without their approval on something as significant as this. So
there was no approval, and we're still trying to figure out the Tabor law. I mean, I don't know why there's so many smart people in this county, but nobody wants to pay shit for attention. I mean, why Jimmy and I, the hayseed and the plumber boy, are trying to figure out the Tabor law so we can nail this down so we can tell you about it. It's beyond me, but what it is, right? So the problem is that the way that we understand the deal with Tabor is that they can't commit and spend funds that they don't have. So therefore they can't purchase something more than a year out, right?
I believe that's kind of the gist of it.
So
That's where bonds and things come in for a long-term deal. That's where, what was that, the COP thing? They're trying to skirt that deal around, with lease and borrowing over here and trying to get outside the law. And the government's hands are somewhat tied, to make them responsible for our money.
And that let's just get right into that too. So let's just jump right into CIC. I mean, this is really complicated, folks, and it's easy to get lost in. But once you get a general painting of the picture, then it's not really that complicated.
Absolutely.
But so CCI, Colorado Counties Incorporated, is a nonprofit organization that advises the counties of Colorado. Now, hold up, right? Scratch that back. You got a non-profit organization advising the elected officials of the counties of Colorado. Like, hello? None of that makes sense, right? How can you have a non-profit NGO, non-profit, non-governmental organization telling the elected officials how to operate? And that's what CCI is, Colorado Counties. And so this thing is about 36 pages, I think. And at the end, it says the law on the very last page. But the 35 pages before that basically say, this is what we want you to do. Don't worry about the law.
Yeah, that's a huge discovery that we discovered in reading through. And, we were seeking to find out why are the elected officials acting outside the law? And where are the attorneys at? Where's our county attorney at in this? Why is all this lawless?
The county attorney is he's in the other room with doing something that he's not supposed to with someone that he ain't supposed to be doing it with. He's totally, completely compromised, and why he's not fired. Everybody tells us that he is, but he's not. He's still acting on behalf of our constituents. So, I mean, I'm not trying to get too loud there, and sure not trying to get in trouble, but like, hello.
So really,
they say they fired him, but he ain't fired. So where it's just word salad after word salad, right? These commissioners are just, I mean, and shouldn't say just commissioners, but all of our elected officials that are running our business, they just seem to be yes men. All they're wanting to do is tell us yes to whatever question that we want the answer to, and they're we'll tell you whatever you want to hear, and that's what they're doing.
Well, there's several pretty big issues, I think, that are pretty rampant in most of the counties in Colorado, and it's very, very repetitive problems.
And so here, this is where this is coming from, folks. It's called Fabian socialism, right? And I forget the exact definition, but it basically, these people that made this up, they're like, we don't care if it takes 300 years to get our agenda implemented. We're gonna implement our agenda, and that's what socialism. That's what they're trying to do. And I mean, it's basically everywhere but here. It's all over the world, but the United States. And I mean, it's here, because if you don't think it is, then you ain't paying attention close enough. But so, Colorado Counties Incorporated, so this same set of guidelines that this non-governmental organization, nonprofit to boot, is telling all of the counties how to operate that, right? And so the people in charge of this are not good-hearted, hardworking patriots or diehard Americans, right? They're liberal, democratic, socialistic people that want to undermine the rule of law. Because if they represented the law, if they respected the law, they wouldn't be operating like they're operating. And so what they do is they create this huge gray area that people think that it's all right. Just like, what did the attorney say? Well, what did he? What?
Oh, I think it's defensible. I think it might be defensible. In an environment, in an environment where it had to be so well, the law had to be followed, so you couldn't have any. You'd be above reproach 100%. And he said, "Oh, I think it's defensible," when it was completely.
So
that was the hiring of, trying the hiring the county administrator. That was that debacle, and didn't follow the law at all. And that's, if you can go to CCI and punch in resources, and then go down to hiring a county administrator. The audience can do that themselves and just see what we're really talking about. And that's just one issue here. That's just one, and then it feathers out from there.
But it's what we've talked about, folks, and we're just going to keep hammering this home because we have no other where to go. They've impregnated our integrity so hard with this thought process of socialism, communism, Marxism, all of this stuff, right? Fabian socialism it seems to me to be the most accurate description of what's going on. I mean, and that's just my interpretation. One thing about a definition, if you don't like it, just wait 20 years and the definition will change.
Boy, it is nowadays. That's why them old dictionaries are so important.
Yeah. I mean, they've changed the definition of terrorist, of vaccine, of all that stuff, right? They've changed the definition of all this stuff.
They perverted the real definition of the word to blend into their agenda.
We'll see if we didn't just get booted off YouTube again for them 2 words.
Oh, dang it. Man, tough to shut a free man up. Sorry.
We got cut off last week for a little 5-second blurb about some stuff, but we edited that out and kind of got back in their graces, at least for the day.
Sorry.
At the end of the day, we don't care.
Not really.
What we're trying to do is get the information to you folks so that we can make a logical decision here. And so this is trying to paint a picture here. So we think that they did us wrong purchasing this property. We think they've done us wrong the way that they went about this whole justice center. There's nothing ethical about it, but yet they feel that it's needed. And so there's an article in the paper. I didn't get a chance to read it. I've been kind of under the weather. My dad gets that subscription, and I've kind of been trying to stay away from him because he hadn't caught in that thing, so I don't want him to get it if he don't have to. But so I haven't gotten the paper myself to look at it, but he's like, yeah, there's an article in there. They say right in there that Justice Center's mandated, so that's why we got to have it. So, being what we like to focus on, folks, is solutions. We know that the Justice Center is not mandated. What's mandated is there's certain criteria that we need to follow. And a lot of it is in this bad boy right here. And it goes on to say, I mean, one of the worst things about the jail is that they can't cook. Okay. I mean, let's get real, right? So, I mean, they can't cook in the jail, so we need to spend essentially $40 million. So, I mean, you've already all heard that, you know the scenario. So this is what I think the solution going forward is that we need to look at what really needs to be addressed with the courthouse we have and spend the money wisely to upgrade the building we have. I mean, yeah, it did have a leaky roof, but I mean, and then it wouldn't have leaked nearly as bad if you would have fixed it, and it took you like 3 years to stop the leak. I mean, come on, man. They're already trying to think that they're getting that. They got a new car coming, so they don't have to take care of the one they got. Oh, hell, just crash it and it's fine. Drive it in the ditch and run it out of water and run it out of oil. Hell, we're getting a new one. It don't matter.
I mean, it does seem kind of like that.
It does seem like that because it took them a while to fix that roof, and it's just a roof, folks.
Yeah.
It's called tar or whatever they use to make them flat roofs.
You can do ice and water shields. You can do a 3-member torch down hot mop. You can do a cold application. You can do a wet mop with white poly stuff. There's a whole... It is endless on how you can fix a flat roof. So,
and another thing that I think that's
almost intentional.
It seems intentional to me as well.
These are the funny things that add up. And when somebody is in, when you're in a trustee position, you can't be doing things like this. I mean, you can. Don't get me wrong. And they are. And this is the rub.
Nobody understands. That's the thing. That's why we're trying to bring it to you. See, just like one of the constituents that we visited with and that wrote us an email says, "Well, you're not going to like what I have to say. They're not doing anything illegal." Well, if you look back at the statute 24-18-103, you breached the trust. And that is, it's a law, folks. So you've broken the law. It's illegal. You didn't just do something that we don't like. You actually perpetrated against the law of the state of Colorado and of the country of the United States. It's illegal. And nobody wants to say that's the case. And so that's why we're working so hard to bring these to light. It took us months to dig this back up. It's like the whole universe doesn't want us to get this information.
Man, I'm telling you.
It's been bad, right? I've been after Jimmy. I'm like, where's he at? Where's he at? He looks at every computer he's ever had.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. And they were itemized down to, and the biggest thing that stuck out and why we were wanting to do this and why I was so convicted to do it was there was some statutes in there that said if you're an employee and you see something, where somebody's doing something wrong, you have to go immediately to the person in charge or some official and report it. And if you don't, you're as guilty as they are. Now you've aided, you know what I'm saying? That's pretty stout language. And that was the one I was really searching for, because that's the one I want to put out there. But that's the level of behavior that you got to have. When you're getting public money, it ain't yours. You're entrusted to use it and not abuse it. And you can't even create a suspicious situation. And that's why the ethics are so important.
And so what they're doing, folks, is they're using this legislation, which is real, to pull the wool over our eyes, saying that we need more than we need. And that's the real problem.
That's boiling it down
and
right there.
Yeah, that to try to cut them off at the pass, we will be liable to comply with the state regulations. And like I said, I can't remember. I think it's 24-15 or 1056. That'll be on the website too. It's just been a lot going on. Of course, kind of got sick, and we want to try to compile this information so it's not just like, oh, well, here, find it yourself, right? We're trying to make it where you can go onto the website and then click on this and actually see kind of what we're talking about without having to spend hours of just digging through. And I mean, that's only 50 pages of stuff, right?
And one of the things I wanted to say too, and it's a whole forest of unethical behaviors from different individuals over amount of time that's gotten us to this point.
Well, and so that goes back, and I've been saying this the whole time, right? It's the education system, but actually, when we dig deeper, what it is this CCI They are being guided by a non-governmental, non-profit organization run by liberals.
Yeah. I have that. It says to educate, advocate, and empower. CCI is a nonprofit membership association whose purpose is to offer assistance to county commissioners, mayors, and council members, and to encourage counties to work together on common issues. And if you look at the top of that thing, is if you like the new Green Deal, that's what you're getting. And here's the other thing I wanted to say. The other big part of this is our property values kind of went way up. The valuations of our property. So our taxes went up quite a bit. So there's more money being put into the taxes for here. And now properties could be plummeting. So that it was just a form of tax revenue is all I'm getting at is with that inflation. So a lot of this stuff is, I don't know how well it's thought out, but we could have a lot of shortcomings.
And so, rather than trying to, the thing is, yeah, did they do us wrong on the purchase of the ground? I mean, if you don't think that's the case, maybe you need to go to, I don't know where you need to go, away from me. I mean,
well, you'd have to go to new math school to figure it out. If you can't,
I mean, maybe you need to go to the moon, or I don't know where. They probably won't put up with that kind of nonsense on the moon either.
No.
But so they violated our trust there. They're violating our trust now, saying that it's mandated, but yet they think we're too stupid to figure out that if it was mandated, why did we vote on it? So all that being said, right, it's like this game of chess that we're playing. What we need to do is try to cut them off at the pass, right? So we're going to be required to upgrade some stuff.
It's a given.
That's society, right? Okay, all good. This thing talked about having an elevator going from the first floor to the third floor. I don't know. I mean, at least from the second floor to the third floor, I would think would be good enough, but I don't know. I've never been downstairs. I don't know what all that entails. I thought that was the doom and gloom dungeon. I don't know. You said there's a meeting room down there, though? Or?
Yeah, there's a meeting room, and they also have some stuff stored down there, and that's where that thing came up. I guess Lucas was down there, and I've got to get down in there. I've got to take a camera and get down in and look at really what's going on there, but that's where he stumbled across this. So here we got a $20 to $40 million, development, and the
county clerk doesn't even have any kind of transaction. She has no notes. No, there was no appraisal on the ground.
She doesn't have it in her file.
So I mean, we don't have any way to.
That's what I'm saying. It's just a continuous.
We don't have any way to check her on that. I mean, we just have to take it at face value. If she says she doesn't have it, we just have to.
That's where I'm at. She's a sweetheart. I think Kelly's good to go. I think she tries as hard as she can to be upright. But there's a surrounding things going on there.
That's the ornery part about this whole thing.
It is ornery.
I mean, there's really no way to double check it.
You don't.
I mean, without a subpoena.
That's why the transparency and the uprightness and following the ethics are so vital.
Without a subpoena in a court case, to actually get an investigator in there to investigate, there's nobody to investigate it, right? So we just have to take it at face value. We took it at face value. There's nothing there.
Right.
So they spent what's going to be close to $40 million, or trying to spend that much. Now they're trying to say they cut it back or whatever. But let's be responsible for all of our well-being and say, look, we know what you guys are doing. You're completely and totally being non-transparent with this. You hid it from us. Jay Prince asks Bill, he says, well, why didn't you tell me about it? I only heard of one meeting. Bill says, well, there was only one meeting. So you spent $18 million on one meeting that nobody was invited to. Nobody knows nothing. What little bit of information we happened to get came from the newspaper reporter that was there that kind of said what it was, that, and then we have the contract itself.
Yeah. Which is pretty fishy.
It's pretty fishy. Why the attorney would let them do that, why the accountant would let them do that, I mean, I guess they couldn't stop them. I mean, I guess the accountant and the attorney are just advisory.
Yeah, but they also have a duty. They're getting public money. Anytime you receive that taxpayer money, you have a duty to them. That's what that says.
I do know that the accountant wasn't happy, but I don't think that there was anything that he could do about it.
Right.
So I mean, I know.
So to me, here's what I would do as a reasonable, somewhat educated person. I would have said, look, I'm going to go over here to the Sentinel, and I'm going to tell on you guys. Okay. Now you can't fire me. You can't do it because there's laws that protect a whistleblower. You're not going to hurt me any. I'm just going to go right over here and say, looky here, this is what's going on over there. Because you have a duty getting taxpayer money. You actually have a duty to go say, wait a minute, and we have abuse.
There was nobody.
That's what the press is about.
There was nobody that said that. The only reason the press was there because they sent their own reporter over there.
And barely caught a glimpse of
it. And
of anything.
We know a decent amount of what transpired because it's on record at the BOCC meetings, right? If we didn't have a record of what they talked about, then we wouldn't know anything.
The audio and video. It's 436 or something like that. Don't quote me on that. But there's a whole library of the
well, and that's what they're counting on now, right? Is it's so deep and it's so extensive that if you don't understand what you're looking for, nobody ever will have the time.
That's what my aunt used to say. Well, Jimmy, they can't see the forest because all the trees. And that's sort of where we've come to here. And it's such a it's just a. I mean, everywhere you look, it's like, why did they do that?
But all of that aside, right? So we know why they've done that because they've been advised that was okay by the CCI. Well, that's why they've done it, because they've been advised to do that. That's why they did it, because the attorney told them, well, it's defensible. Well, who cares? The whole thing of, well, maybe we shouldn't do it because it's not the right thing to do. Now what you're doing is getting an attorney involved to say, well, it should be defensible in court, so you can go ahead and break the law, and we think we can get you out of trouble, so go ahead.
See, that is nail on the head right there. So they're exploiting the gray area and the lack of knowledge that people have because we trust them.
And that's why the public trust is blown here. There is no public trust anymore with these people. But so back to solutions, right? So kind of a common plan that we've been throwing around is that I think that there needs to be some, and I don't know this exactly, but it sounds like they call this an architectural problem. So an architect in the county, someone that lives here that's a patriot, needs to stand up and say, hey, look, I can address this. I can look at this. I can look at the requirements that are going to happen here, and we can address this, and we can get in compliance with the money that we can afford.
And maybe keep our beautiful courthouse, what is the centerpiece of our whole county.
Well, yeah, you see some of them pictures back when the day before they parked straight into the sidewalk there because there wasn't nothing else. Yeah. There's no trees, there's no buildings. And let's face it, folks, everybody likes antiques. They like nostalgia. Hell, let's buy something old and run down and refurbish it.
But we're in the mentality of some folks where we want to tear a statue down. Well, and that's here again. That's another mentality of let's tear it down.
That's the Fabian socialism.
That's exactly right. That's what I'm saying. If you can get rid of the history,
but that's exactly what they're trying to do is get rid of the history. So if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going.
Well, you can be abused again with the same carnival, and that's what we're trying to keep from happening here. We don't need There's some fixes, and reading through that thing, a lot of it was we need to make sure everybody is protected just because of society, and we want to respect the people, in this whole system. Everybody needs to be respected and treated right. I still come back down to the 3 or 4 nurses that we'd have to have just for the jailhouse.
Well, yeah,
it's dumbfounding that you think we're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, so we can't afford it for the jailhouse that's already paid for. So let's raise the mill levy up whatever 9 points or whatever it was, to try to generate like $1 million to $2 million a year for something that we can't even afford to staff the ones that we already have paid for.
It almost seems if we were built to serve that, instead of that serving us.
Well, and so I said it before and I'll say it again. There's only so many reasons why people do what they do. They're either forced, which would be extortion or blackmail, or they have something to gain. So why would they want to try to build a $20 million justice center unless they were getting paid? And so if we can do the upgrades for $1 million or $2 million, then obviously all the people that orchestrated this outfit right here, who is this? Riley Johnson Architecture. They ain't gonna get paid. They already got paid $80,000 just to put this together, or something like that, $80,000. So, I mean, you almost have to draw a conclusion here, because you can surmise that it's one or the other. They're either forced into it, or they have something to gain. And so why would all 3 commissioners sign this off in one meeting? And the board that represented it, so we know who the chair was, right? It says right in the minutes that Ann Barthrop was the chair of the committee. I mean, that's on the minutes of the meeting. Bill Candace says that she didn't have nothing to do with it. Bill, why'd you say that when we know she did? Because we got it on the minutes of the meeting, bud. I mean, that's kind of a...
And the other thing, Steve and I was thinking about the other day, driving along, minding my business, but I just had a little quick thought. They had Amanda Hunter on this deal, which is the judge. I mean, why would she allow not a strong paper trail or discussion in the minutes to be, to me, I would have said, hey, I'm an elected official. I carry a lot of weight here. Things need to be done proper, because that's what I do. I'm the judge. Why was that allowed? The sheriff was on this board. The bailiff, who is the judge now, was on this committee.
It's CCI. Who is feeding the thoughts of diminishing your integrity and your ethics? Who is diminishing the ethics? And the only people that are right there are the CCI. What did they say right there? Jimmy just told you what their whole goal is to help county commissioners, mayors, and public officials. Help them do what? Compromise your integrity so that you can get this Fabian socialism through the people. And we'll get it through good enough and quick enough and done enough to where they can't do anything about it. And we're almost there. That's why Bill, I might be speaking out of turn there, but my dad said that Mr. Kanda had wrote it. He's the one that he specifically said Bill's name when he said that they're going to carry on with the Justice Center in the paper this week, in the Sentinel this week. They're going to carry on with the Justice Center because it's mandated.
Yeah, he told me that over the phone when I talked to him.
But so that's back to, right? So, I mean, they're just trying to play us, folks. They're trying to play us here. It's not mandated. There's only certain criteria that we have to abide by that's legislative law. That's back to if it was mandated, why did we vote on it instead of why ain't they already building it?
Well, and here again, if we could get by with a remodel.
Well, we can get by with the remodel because we've already looked at this. What does it say the old courthouse or the old jail needs? A new kitchen? And we can't house prisoners while we redo that. Okay. So what have they been doing? They've been going to Fremont County for a while by now. So we could easily renovate the jail that we have.
Then we need three or four nurses. 3 or 4 nurses.
That's a big problem, right? So why would we do all that when we can just ship them to Fremont County? And another thing, somebody that has legal expertise had made the comment. They says the officers up here need to understand and be trained on what they can. And I can't remember the exact terminology of all this stuff, but basically what they're saying is when you can just write them a ticket.
OR them.
And they have
you could OR them. You could go ahead and write the ticket. Go ahead and do whatever you got to do. Let them go on reconnaissance or whatever they call that. And then you don't have to hold them.
Yeah.
Then what you do is you issue a warrant if they don't show up.
Well, and yeah. What the whole thing is there is that someone that's not a violent whatever, someone that doesn't need to be incarcerated. Right. You just give them a ticket and then they show up to court.
Absolutely.
And then you eliminate all of this. Well,
Book them, Dano.
We have prisoners.
Hey, we got the prisoners. Territorial prison up here. Look at us. We're Custer County.
We're tough.
We're tough, boy. Oh, damn, we ain't smart, but we're tough. That's my favorite saying. If you're going to be stupid, you got to be tough.
So, I mean, kudos to the
sheriff.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, he's done a fine job trying to maneuver in the environment that he's in, right? I mean,
boy, I'll tell you, what a trooper.
He's buying beer with beer money. He's not trying to buy champagne with beer money. And they don't like him for it, folks. They don't think that. I mean, the people that are for this Justice Center, most of them don't seem to really like Rich Smith because
he's getting in the way.
Yeah, he is. He's getting in the way, same way we're getting in the way here. And we need everybody else to get in the way here because they're unjust in what they're doing. Do we need improvements to get into
the future?
Or whatever
whatever we're going to adapt to.
Kind of got a fuzzy brain here, but into specification or into
compliance.
Compliance. There you go. Compliance. That was the word I was looking for. Right. So we know that we're going to have to get into compliance. I mean, they give us a year, right? So when they come in and investigate this and they say, okay, you need an elevator, right? So they give us a year to get that done before there's ever any problem. You know, they can't. It's not like, well, they're going to lock all the elected officials up in jail, haul them away, right? I mean, they'd only do that to us minions, right?
Well, I mean, if we didn't vote for it, and we said no, because we did, we said no, are they going to come lock all of us up? How's that work?
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is like,
it's crazy.
This is a big thing about where I'm at with the terminology of the word mandate, right? So mandate, in my opinion, is a recommendation, not law. It's not a legislative law, or they would call it a law. Mandate is not a law. They're trying to incorporate that, but can't you just say law? Oh, that's right. You can't say law because it ain't a law.
Well, wearing one of these, I can't say the name. You know, it was mandate. Oh, you got to do this. Trying to keep from getting kicked off YouTube here, folks. Don't want to say something wrong.
Man, talk about
I did hear that old Zuckerberg. He says he's tired of it. Now he's going with X, probably because he's losing all his business.
Well,
So Facebook supposedly is not going to censor stuff anymore. I heard that's.
well, it's a revolution. There's a revolution that's going on, and we're part of that revolution. It's just the way it is. But I don't know where that guy. I don't know. The only word I could say for him is demented.
He looks like every time I see him, he looks like an alien to me, man. He's
He does.
Weird son of a gun.
He looks just like that. Who was the gal that spoke for the president for so long?
Oh,
That red-headed gal.
Oh, I can't think of what her name is.
But you know what I mean? They look like, I mean, you could put them two side by side, and it's almost like, Bill Gates, what have you been doing here? How did you come up with this? You need to get that gene pool mixed up there a little bit more, boy.
and so, I guess here's where we're at. I'm doing the best I can to formulate a plan to try to cut them off at the pass. So, if we know what our requirements are going to be, then what we need is an architect to lay out a plan and bring that in front of the county commissioners and say, hey, look, this whole justice center thing that you got in mind is completely and utterly out of line. And so I would still rather, they're going to say, well, we've already spent $250,000 and I mean, we have to do it, but we don't. We don't have to buy that ground. We can drop out of that lease at any time and be done with it. And so here's another big question that I just heard today. Made a lot of sense. Have you ever seen a lease that you pay interest on? Ever? I've been in a lot of leases on both, kind of.
The leasee and the leaseor.
I know both sides of it.
Yeah.
Some. Most of the time, I'm the leaseor, the leasee, not the leaseor, right? And a lease is, it's a contract to be protected, right? That's what we use. But I have never once ever heard of a lease having interest. And so, we talked about the price being $3 a foot, and then they dropped it down to $2 a foot. So when it went, if my mind serves me right, from $8.76 down to $5.31 or whatever it is.
That's pretty close.
But by the time that we fool around and pay the 2% interest, we're paying the full price, folks. We're going to pay $900,000 for that ground.
Yeah, and our books and stuff are in such a disarray right now.
So we just and we're going to post all this stuff so you can see it, right? We just got some information on a quarter request that says they paid the Chet Haga Trust. Well, they paid him. The payment's $50,000, and they paid him $62,000. So the 2% interest is basically amounting to almost 30% of the payment.
Yeah. So here again, that's another abuse that these guys have done, and it's very suspicious.
It's suspicious, and so it's far beyond suspicious, folks. There's only two methods there that can take place. Either they have gain or they were forced. And I don't think that this county is advanced enough to have big time syndicate crime, families, extortion, blackmail, all of that. I mean,
well, you'd hope not.
There might be a little bit here and there, but I would think that we're a small enough community, everything is organic enough that the big crime things don't really exist here. So the chance of it being force is highly unlikely.
Right.
It has to do with reward.
Right.
So the people that signed this in, we're just going to start right off the top. Ann Barthorpe is the chair. She was the chairperson of the committee. Bill Kenda, Jay Prince, Tom Flower, and Clint Smith, along with Shannon Byerly. Them were the proponents, and Amanda Hunter, right? But Ann was the chair. It says that right in the minutes. And then you have the three commissioners that signed it, and Clint Smith was the attorney that negotiated the deal.
Yeah. So you did kind of you kind of got me provoked a little bit when you go, ooh, yeah, there's probably not that kind of external pressure or that kind of high-powered pressure. And I'm shooting from the hip. But when you look and see that we got redistricted as little bitty old Red County, how many people we got in this county?
4,700 supposedly.
47, and those are registered voters, I
Yeah,
guess.
so I mean, I don't with kids. I don't know how many
Anyways,
total population.
pretty little bitty drop.
Pretty small.
Why did we get redistricted? And then who redistricted that? Who
Well,
led that?
and so we're not the only one, right? I mean,
All
it's-
I'm saying is let's not say that there isn't some pretty huge external forces that haven't been.
well, I'm not, but I don't.
Right.
I don't think that it's like if you don't do this, we're going to kill your kid.
Right.
It's not that. It's the other way around. We have money to make.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's where.
No. I understand. I see both sides of the coin.
In my opinion, there's only two reasons why they would do that. Because
Who are they serving?
they're not serving us.
There you go.
I mean,
That's what it comes down to.
you can't. Why would you spend that kind of money? Okay, I get it. It's convenient. And it is convenient, right? It's kind of right there with the complex. But there was another piece of ground that wasn't more than 3 blocks away
I'm telling you.
that was cheaper.
There's
And it was offered.
Mm-hmm.
All of the real estate agents know what the deal is. I mean, everybody knows what the deal is here. There was no appraisal on this ground.
I read someplace where there was an appraisal, but I haven't seen anything printed.
The appraisal, see, so they said that there was appraisal, but if you look at what that said, who was that appraisal? That's Schneider. That's the Q Public. That's the Custer County Assayer's website.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you look at that, it's very misleading.
Yeah, there's no appraisal.
No.
There's no appraisal that says that it was worth 500 grand. There was no appraisal that says it was worth 200 grand, let alone 900.
So that comes down to the clerk and recorder. Hey, Miss Kelly Camper, ma'am, love you to death. What do we got? What information, Kelly, can I get in your file for the Justice Center? Well, I don't have anything except that lease, and you guys already got that lease thing. I said, really? So a $20 to $40 million development in Custer County, you only have the copy of the lease of us getting into some kind of relationship, buying the property with the convicted felon. That's all the property you got. That's all the paperwork you got. And she said, well, being you put it like that, she said, yeah, it does sound a little weird. I'm going, man, that thing screams at me. There ought to be some kind of
Well, so,
minutes
yeah,
and
yeah.
things.
Are we beginning to paint a picture here, folks? I mean, we're talking about the public trust, the breach of fiduciary duty, 24-18-103. They robbed us blinder than shit. And in the name of, well, it's mandated. We have to do this. And we do have to do certain things, but it remains to be seen what we have to do. I mean, fixing the kitchen.
And 4 nurses. I mean, there's a big to do going on here to step up to them requirements. I mean, and it's a big to do. But man, it's a whole bunch of little counties big to do. How you gonna do? You ain't got the money. You can't even staff it. You can't even afford, your taxes are gonna go so high, you will absolutely be living for the prisoner. That's how crazy this all is.
Well,
We're going to treat them so good, the criminal, and we're going to make the law-abiding, upright citizen have to completely accommodate that kind of life. Man, that just is that in itself is criminal to me.
Well, and that's something that I kind of just, I mean, I've thought about it before, but I thought about it again today because I seen the bill. Let me see if I can draw this up real quick. The bill today, let's see what that rascal is. That's
We also I got a bunch of grass-fed beef if anybody's looking for some good beef. So hit us up on the message thing there, and if you're concerned about the food supply and things of that nature, we're trying to get that going here.
So this is we got a quarter request that lists the December invoices that were paid. Okay, the Fremont vendor 000018 Fremont County Sheriff's Office. From April to November, custody of prisoners. Inmate housing, April to November of 2024. We paid $54,813 to house these prisoners. And I'm like, I know it's just part of the system that we're in, right? It's just part of everyday life. We think, well, they're the bad guys, lock them up. Well, how in the hell come do I have to pay for it? I mean, I'm like, why do I have to pay for someone that broke the law? Why don't they just seize all their assets and take away everything that they ever had and garnish their wages from now to perpetuity or whatever, instead of me, a law-abiding citizen, which I'm not perfect, right? I've been in the jailhouse. I've only spent the night in jail once.
Same here.
That was
no,
enough.
I didn't even. No, I was 4 hours, and it was wrongly. Man, the guy couldn't apologize any better.
Yeah, I last time I was in jail, I walked home. I had to walk out and finish doing what I was doing because they took the only truck I had and impounded it. Had to walk like 3 miles to go shut a bunch of stuff off that could have burned the whole industrial park down. But these dumb bastards don't give a shit about that, right? All they care about is top cop.
Top cop, baby.
And, I blew below the legal limit, and they still arrested me, and it took a couple good attorneys and $20,000 to get that cleared out. And I blew below the legal limit, folks, and they still incarcerated me. And, I mean, I almost sued the shit out of this county over that, and my attorney's like, he wanted to too, but he's like, you know what? He's like, man, something could go wrong. He said, you're basically scotch-free. He said, you better just... And I said, yeah, I mean, I didn't really have another $50,000 to try to throw out at him anyhow, but...
Right. Well, and really, we're looking at the heart of the matter here. And the more society, the more law breaking, and the more... And that's why we don't want a whole bunch of immigrants up here either.
It's business. It's big business, just like the penitentiaries, right? They get
Boy,
paid.
oh boy.
They get paid. A lot of them are private.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
That's another big old hoo-ha.
Right, so, I mean... They get paid to arrest people that we have to pay for.
And it's taxpayers' money.
It's taxpayers'
And
money.
where I always go with the taxpayer money, and people go, well, you sure say that a lot. I said, well, listen. The taxpayers' money is coming out of profit. Some individual, whether you went to work and you served doing whatever you did, you gave some kind of service.
You either made something or did something.
You either made something or you done something, but there was some profit involved. Well, they're taking our profit, and that's their taxes. They're not worried about profit and loss. They're not worried about risk and stuff. I mean, they should be in the complex society that we're in. And that's kind of where all this CCI and CITSI come in, risk management.
Yeah, they don't care about none of that because it's a perpetual money stream.
Well, matter of fact, it's completely ass backwards. If you don't spend it all, you won't be able to get it next year. I watched a plow truck going down the highway. Ain't an ounce of plow, ain't nothing, snow, ain't nothing, nowhere. Well, hey, Noodle, what you doing? Well, I got to go down there and burn this up and put miles on and do all this here. You on LSD or what? Who told you that? Well, no, that's how the budget works. If I run a business like that, I'd be out of business.
Yeah, a friend of mine, he was an purchasing agent for the Army. He told me that exact thing.
Procurement.
Yeah, if they don't spend their budget, then they cut their budget the next year.
Yeah.
There is no fiduciary responsibility there.
They have got this thing so perverted and upside down, no common sense, no practical application of any kind of
And so this is,
wise planning and being ahead of stuff.
I mean, they got us in the corner big time, folks. I mean, this is,
Well, we're going to change it. That's what the word revolution is.
well, and so, I mean, that the chance of changing it is super slim, right? I mean, there's so many people and there's so much money against us, but we do have a chance, right? And so it's the David and Goliath. And that's why right now, our most logical solution is to get an architect in there. And I mean, it's basically the way that I see it is it's going to have to be free, right? Somebody's going to have to donate their time like we are and say, hey, look, this is what we need.
And the beauty about that is it could be duplicatable throughout 40 other counties.
Well, and it can be. I mean, we're not really doing anything that big. All we're doing is trying to take control of the money that belongs to us. I mean, and really what it is it's a thought process. It's the people. What's repeatable here is the way that you think about something. And that's why we're doing our best here to explain what's going on and come up with a solutions to potentially lower the damage and make a better life, right? We can't afford a 2% sales tax increase and then however many mills they wanted to put on.
Yeah, it's all right there.
I mean, it's a bunch.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. It's the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath.
They try to say, well, it'll only raise your property tax $78, but that's one specific little instance of what this is. They didn't add in the interest. They didn't add in the operating cost. They just, I mean,
well, no, and
it's deceptive. The whole thing is deceptive because they don't put the total cost in there.
No, they gave you a little slice of a small picture of the big picture.
Yeah,
and man, is it deceitful.
Yeah, it's deceptive and deceitful, and it's been deceptive for the whole time. How can you buy a piece of property with the people's money that you didn't even get in a bank won't let you do that?
Any piece of property I got, there was 3 appraisals.
There wasn't a single appraisal on that piece of property. Wasn't enough time for it. Wasn't enough time for an appraisal. One meeting, and the next meeting it was done.
And that's the suspicious environment that's been created by our elected officials.
And I mean, it really looks. Of course, the elected officials are the ones that are accountable there, but the committee.
That committee
The committee that. How many times did they lie to themselves and lie to everybody else around them to try to come to this conclusion that this was a good deal? It's not a good deal at all. We could have took the $250,000 that we've already dropped on that property and probably outfitted the courthouse like we need it to and been squared away.
See, and there again, that would have been very responsible and conservative as opposed to what we're doing. We're putting a big old diamond in a goat's ass. But here again, it says right here, rules of conduct for members of boards. And they're held. Anytime you're doing the public's business.
And so we were going through this real close and we just didn't have enough time. And I sort of dropped the ball on that. But where they talk about rules of conduct, there's no teeth there. That's just basically, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's guidance. But here again,
this is what you should do.
Now,
but when you get down here into the other parts of this is law. It's not conduct. This is not how you rules of conduct. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about public trust and fiduciary duty and ethical principles that have teeth. You broke the law, not just you had misconduct. And so that's why a lot of these statutes, there's a shitload of these statutes, but a lot of them, they don't have teeth, right? And that's why a lot of people think, well, they were unethical, but they didn't break the law. But they did break the law.
So the old saying is, where there's smoke, there's fire. and if you know to use ethics as a shield to protect yourself, to be above reproach, which every county employee, every elected official, anybody that's receiving tax money should have that first and foremost.
And they should. And that's
where we're losing it.
That's how you should operate, number one, within your home, folks. That's how you should treat your family, treat your spouse, treat your kids, treat your parents, treat your friends, treat a complete stranger, right? With respect. Not this, well, I'm going to get one up on them. I see a way that I can get the money off the Justice Center, so I am going to buffalo this through there without any kind of public knowledge or anything. We're just going to do it. And we're going to tie them down and say, you can't use this property. You can't sell it. You can't lease it. You can't do anything but build a government building on it. Who, in their right mind, ethically, would build up them kind of requirements on a piece of ground that's paid for with taxpayer money? I mean, if that isn't ulterior motives, right? The only reason that you would build that contract is to force a government building there. And so
there again,
who's getting paid, right? Is it like the park, right? I mean, so now that Caleb's gone, never knew Caleb. Evidently, it's maybe a good thing that I didn't. He's gone, but now all the stuff's come out. I finally read one of them things that said he got fired because he wanted $100,000 and then he got belligerent with it. And then the next week he's already says he's the town manager at Green Mountain Falls. So he's like, he's already playing everybody like a trumpet, right? But when this gentleman, when they hire let's see what's up. I thought we might have had a question there, but that's not the case.
Yeah, and if you folks got a question,
so hit the chat up. Of course, hit the emails up. The emails, we can't answer them right now, but on the chat, right, you can ask a question on the chat, and then Mike, our IT guy that's running the whole show, right, we don't have a screen here so that we can see the questions, but we've never really seen a question yet. So when we do, right, he's just going to text me and say, hey, this is the question, because we're still, running this off our cuff and our shoestring. But back to Caleb and what happened at the park. So, I mean, first of all, everybody's grant crazy. So they get a grant for $100,000. Oh, we're going to redo the park. We got $100,000. I mean, it's such great. I mean, it's the greatest thing ever. Well, the part that nobody understands is that you got to come up with another $400,000 to get $100,000. So that doesn't make any sense, right? So in my opinion, they were too lazy to take care of the park, didn't want to mow it, didn't want to take care of the grass. So let's turn that son of a bitch all to concrete. Well, so they turn it to concrete, and we can post you this stuff too. There's a lot of links with this whole thing. They pour concrete. They don't even get an electrical inspection, while the electrical inspector even has made comment that the town manager is trying to put so much pressure on them when people are just changing an outlet, they got to have an electrical inspection.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all through the town manager, this Caleb Patterson. Like I said, I didn't know him. Evidently, it was probably a good thing I didn't.
He wasn't quite as bad as the one he replaced, but he was growing up.
So anyhow, what happened, folks, with the park is that there was like 120-some page requirements that had to be taken care of to put this park in. And they got it off of the city of Durango. It says right in the contract, the city of Durango 18 times. And it's for Westcliff. Bingo bango, it's Westcliff, not Durango, folks. So They buffaloed this thing in so hard that they couldn't even go through and change the word Durango's to Westcliff. And there was no bids from anybody in Westcliff at all. There was just one particular outfit, and I read that quick. I can't remember none of that stuff. But basically, the people that got the bid weren't from here. They didn't have time to go through all this stuff. They didn't have the methodology. It's like they already had the bid. They already had the job before the job was even offered out for bid.
Kind of like Braden Wilson.
He
was a shoo-in.
You told me you promised me I had the
job. You
job.
promised me the job, Tom. You promised me.
And obviously he can't cut the water because he can't even keep a job at Unicog.
No, I mean that's the thing is
Unicog for that's the Upper Arkansas Council of Towns or whatever, super liberal. That's who the county over here is scraping like a son of a gun, and we're going to give them bastards a property for nothing.
Well, we already did.
Yeah, it's gone. So let's raise your taxes, folks.
No, and then to have a smirky. And we'll do a clip on this, folks. You're going to get a kick out of this. Have a smirky commissioner say, "Oh, yeah, and we're going to be sending out. I got the tax things. I got the envelopes and I got the stamps. We're ready to go." In a smirky ass, absolutely diabolical deal. We'll get that snippet out. We'll have Mike pull that out on the minutes of the meeting. You get a kick out of it. I mean, you'll see what's going on. It's kind of a little deal, but there again, I want some comments. What did you think about that? How he said it, when he said it, and who he was saying it to? Because it's pretty impressive. That ain't no servant.
But yeah, so let's circle back around one more time to recap this off. We're not trying to beat you over the head with it, folks.
Nah.
I mean, to try to cut them off at the pass with the Justice Center, we need to see what we're required to do and then have an architect just like they did here, have an architect say, this is what we need to fix it, and then we get a bids, and then we fix it, and then we're done. We don't need the Justice Center. We can't afford it. We can't staff it. The only people that stand to make anything off it are going to be the people that build it. And to me, that's where I think that's where a lot of the corruption is really happening here, is the people that wanted to get it in there that bad try to stand. They've already made money off of it somehow. The gentleman that's and this is public information. The gentleman that is in charge of the Chet Haga Trust has already went to prison for fraud for the exact same thing of what we're talking about here. Already done time.
One meeting. We got her done in one meeting.
It's done.
Under 11 minutes. Woohoo! We can go.
Spent you $40 million, put your kids as kids in Hawk here, folks.
And we'll have every criminal up here visiting their criminal buddy. And we will absolutely take our little island and throw it away.
But
that's the crazy. That's the unintended consequence that these people aren't looking at. And if they listen to some folks, I moved here for a reason, and it wasn't for the crime spree.
And so kind of back to recap this, and we're going to call it an evening. Share this with everybody that you know. Talk about it with your neighbors. Talk about it with your friends. Talk about it with your spouse. And most of all, let's talk about it with our county commissioners. Now, here's something. Solutions. Jimmy and I, we've been through this before. We talked about it last week. My advice is that as time kind of goes on here, I mean, we got a little bit of time. I mean, they can't hardly try to build a Justice Center without going to another vote, from my understanding.
Well, they got to have the money.
So we have a little bit of time here to try to try to spread the education about the whole thing.
The awareness.
So let's the takeaway here is that we're required to do something. Now we don't know exactly what that is. We have some regulations that we're going to have to follow. Actually, we have a kind of, according to my information, we have an inside source with the people that actually write some of this stuff that is connected with the sheriff, so that we can kind of get to the bottom of this. The sheriff doesn't think we need a new justice center, folks, and that should tell you something right there. Dang runny nose. So anyhow, the takeaway is that we can stop what they're doing by finding a solution to upgrade the existing facility we have and take care of business that way. And what it's going to take is everybody's going to have to get together here. And I don't know what the legal ramification is, or like, I'd often thought about, so our new email list, and we appreciate everyone. We surely don't mean to offend anybody, taking up your time or your effort, sending you junk emails and that kind of thing. I mean, that's just not what we're trying to do. We're not here for publicity. We're here for education. We're here for our well-being, and we all are in this same thing together. We're all riding in the same ship here. But so to be able to come together here, I thought about maybe putting out a straw poll to say, all of the people that think that we should try to remediate what we have, check that box. But I don't know that would do any good. I mean, our elected officials, according to CCI, they don't really say that they have to listen to us, right? I mean, Kevin Day straight ass told Jimmy, he said, "Man, I don't represent your kind." I mean, how disrespectful is that, Kevin? Who do you think voted your ass in there, man? You think CCI put you in there, pal? Well, they might be trying to take us over, but at some point, freedom is the key here, folks. And so if you value your freedom, then please join us. Let's do our best to find a solution here that we can all live with, that we can all abide by, that we can stay in compliance, and that we can have a happy life. I mean, that's what we're about here. So with that being said, we hope you all have a good evening, and we'll see you next week.
Good evening, folks.